They were keeping their distance, but I managed to briefly catch sight of the dwarf who was following me. Two of the palace guards, ever vigilant for a potential intruder. Something like that, anyway. Shouldn't you have stopped me by now?
What?
What do you mean?
Well, I'm practically into the palace itself, and you haven't even asked who I am.
We can already tell you aren't important.
Not important? I might be a foreign spy.
Accent's too clean for that. I'd say you were born here in Ankh-Morpork.
How can you tell?
Accents. He knows them all.
Ah, hidden talents, eh?
We're guards. All our talents are hidden.
So, you're members of the illustrious palace guards, are you?
Illustrious? Do you know what it means to be a palace guard? We're arrow fodder. If anyone with half-decent skills breaks into the palace, you'll be picking our limbs out of the tapestries.
So why do you do it?
It beats being in the city watch.
And the uniforms are much nicer, too. You used to be in the city watch, didn't you?
You can tell that from my accent.
Would I lie to you?
So, you're an expert on accents.
Oh, yeah. I can tell all sorts of things about you.
Oh, yeah? Like what?
From the stress in your voice, I'd say you experienced a major emotional event about 8 years ago. You like to drink, but if you're not careful, you drink to excess. And you like whiskey.
That really is incredible. Anything else?
That's about it.
You didn't say which part of the city I was born in.
No. That's trickier.
You can tell that I drink whiskey from my accent, but you can't tell which part of the city I was born in.
Well, it comes and goes.
You don't know anything about accents, do you?
Of course he doesn't. He just has a good memory.
You were in the bucket a couple of years ago. You were probably too drunk to remember it.
A couple of years ago, I was too drunk to remember anything. So if you don't know anything about accents, how do you know I'm not a threat to the palace?
If you knew what it was we were guarding, you'd understand.
What is it you're guarding?
Every way into and out of the palace has to be guarded, and we guard one of those.
That's a little vague.
We guard the vital export of post-palatial merchandise.
We guard the trash heap.
That's what I said, wasn't it?
Where is it?
The trash heap? It's around the corner.
But don't steal anything. That's palace garbage. By royal appointment.
Well, by the patrician's appointment.
That's good enough for me.
Is it really that dangerous working for the palace?
Oh, yeah. Our lives could come to a bloody end at any moment.
He's lying, of course. He's always lying. No enemies have ever entered Ankh-Morpork since it was founded.
What about the dwarf attack in the reign of Veltric II? Or the barbarian invasion in the time of Webblethorpe the Unconscious?
Well, of course, technically, we've been invaded quite frequently. But, you know how it is. The guys arrive, they meet a nice local girl, and anyway their leaders suddenly don't want all the big houses burned down because now they own them, and they find sleeping on real beds is a treat after all that time in the saddle. And what with one thing and another, it all ends peacefully.
In other words, you don't have much to do.
Well, there's a lot of standing around to do, but it's not like the golden age of the kings of Ankh.
The golden age?
Well, it was a time long enough ago that no one can remember how wretched it was.
Do you know a lot about the kings of Ankh?
Oh, sure. The whole history of the monarchy.
How come?
Oh, hanging around palaces. You pick up that kind of thing.
What happened to the kings of Ankh?
Well, the real line came to an end about 2,000 years ago. And after that, we got 17 centuries of a monarchy where the crown was available to anyone with enough soldiers and a strong stomach.
That couldn't have been very stable.
Stable? Ha! Not many lines survived more than 2 or 3 generations. Some of them didn't even make it to the end of the coronation feast.
The shortest reign on record was that of Loyola the Arg, at 1.13 seconds.
Can't have been much of a monarch.
That's nothing. For a week, Ankh-Morpork was technically ruled by a wasp. And for several days, by the left foot of the high priest of Io, who dropped the crown on it during the crucial point of the ceremony.
The foot was one of the better rulers, apparently. Made good decisions.
Thanks for the chat.
Our pleasure.
One of the empty barrels had a faint magenta trace to it. The scent was too weak for me to really remember it. Definitely the same scent as my killer, which meant whoever it was made it into the palace concealed in a wine barrel. Why did that bring to mind the phrase, "You wait, time passes," and Thorin sits down and starts singing about gold? The empty barrels were surrounded by a cloying red mist, and it had the shrill pitch of red wine, if I wasn't mistaken. Some ale, Mr. Luton. Have you heard about the murder of one of the patrician's clerks?
Sure thing. I was interviewed by the Watch about it.
You? Why?
He was the clerk in charge of the palace stores. He was the one who bought the wine for the palace.
Really? So do you know anything about the murder?
No, sorry. But there should be someone here from the palace any moment now to collect the next shipment. You could ask them.
I guess I could, but I doubt they'd tell me anything. Do you know anything about the murder up at Unseen University?
No, sorry.
Don't you get wizards in here? You're just around the corner from the university.
No, we don't get wizards here. The wizards prefer the mended drum and other noisy establishments.
What about the other staff?
Well, some of the other staff do call in every now and then. I guess the closest to a regular would be Cassandra, but she's not working there at the moment.
At the moment?
She quits her job occasionally, but she always goes back. The university pays her a good wage for what she does.
Which is?
Mainly laundry and a bit of dusting.
If the pay's good, why does she keep quitting?
She doesn't get on with her head chambermaid up at the new hall.
Why?
Mrs. Folmes has a bad reputation as someone to work with.
I heard that a merchant was murdered. You wouldn't know anything about it, would you, Samael?
A merchant? I think you better ask at a less reputable establishment. I could get into trouble suggesting that something was up in the Merchants' Guild.
Why?
The cafe is part of the Merchants' Charter.
The Merchants' Charter?
It just means that if we're found to have caused any bad publicity for the city or the guild, they send someone round to smash the windows.
Doesn't that cause bad publicity?
I'd rather not pursue that interesting point.
Thanks again, Samael.
No problem, Mr. Luton.
The palace was due to buy some more wine. As far as I could tell, they would be collecting it sometime soon. There was a lingering smell of purple in the corner. The two scents had a superficial similarity. One was more supernatural than the other, though. It smelled exactly the same. There were some faint traces of a light blue scent in the corner of the cellar. The scent was very weak, and I didn't think I would be able to remember it very well. I had a long wait, but it paid off. The double doors were more stately than the others leading from the hall. I reckoned that it led to the oblong office, the patrician's personal sanctum. I could hear a conversation on the other side of the door, but I couldn't quite make out what was being said. The only noticeable scent in the hallway was someone's trail which led to the double doors. As a wolf, my hearing was dramatically improved. I could recognize one of the voices as Commander Vimes, and the other voice had the calculating tones of Lord Vetinari, the patrician of Ankh-Morpork.
Are you any closer to a solution for our mutual problem?
No, sir. I've been occupied.
Indeed. And what could occupy you?
There was a string of copycat killings. I've been trying to solve them.
And have you?
No. My lead suspect was killed.
That is very unfortunate.
It certainly was for Luton.
So there has been no progress in determining who killed Cypher.
Not as such.
I had been given to understand that this was precisely the situation you were well equipped to handle.
I will solve this case, sir. You can count on me.
Do you recall what I said the city reminds me of?
You said it reminds you of a clock, sir.
Indeed. Big wheels and little wheels, all turning at different speeds to keep the machine working. That, after all, is the most important thing. The machine keeps going.
You've told me this before.
Do you know why it keeps working?
Because you want it to keep working?
I'm flattered that you think I have such importance. But no, it keeps running because the people believe it will keep running. Faith is a powerful force.
There is a point to this, sir?
I always have a point. Sometimes it's sharper than others.
I'm sorry. Continue.
One of my clerks has been found face down in a vat of wine, and that makes it appear as if the administration has lost control.
And the administration is me, right?
We are all the administration. You do the work, and I take both the credit and the blame. Provided I do not take the blame, I am content. I trust I make myself clear.
Perfectly.
Suddenly, I could smell blood. It filled up my senses like a night in a forest. Except a night in a forest didn't make me want to tear someone's throat out. I didn't know whether the guard had cut himself or if I was just developing a healthy bloodlust, like any young werewolf. But I couldn't control myself. The next thing I knew, I was in my office. I had no idea how I got there. how I got my coat out of the palace, or where I'd got a traffic cone from. It had been that sort of night. I was sitting at my desk, thinking over the case, when there was a knock at the door.
I understand you've been a busy boy, Luton.
It's a busy life when you're a private investigator. Plus you get to see interesting foreign places and learn a trade.
There was a commotion at the palace last night. Perhaps you know about it?
What goes on at the palace has nothing to do with me.
Indeed it is not. And if for some reason you did take an interest in the palace, I'm sure you would not be so foolish as to be caught breaking into the palace.
Of course not. Think I'm suicidal?
Strange you should say that. I heard you'd been killed.
I expect you hear a lot of things that aren't true. I bet someone has to explain them to you using very small words.
The thing is, the intruder at the palace appears to have been a werewolf.
There's a lot of that around this time of year, I understand. Must be the moon.
I paid my respects to your grave.
Oh, that was nice of you.
It was empty.
Oh, you know how it is. I get claustrophobic in narrow spaces.
So do werewolves, perhaps?
I wouldn't know about that.
Remember when I said how disappointed I was that I couldn't take you out for free?
Oh, that was a very touching sentiment.
Well, Lord Vetinari has generously offered to pay for the inhumation of last night's intruder.
He has a big heart.
It's a shame no one can find it.
Was there a point to your visit?
I was just passing through. Thought you might benefit from my advice.
How generous of you.
Well, I'll be on my way.
The door's behind you. I can explain how to use it if you want.
Watch your steps, Luton. I will be.
There was a faint haze. I didn't know who it belonged. The purple scent was quite distinctive. I'd know it if I smelled it again. Sapphire had a collection of trawl cosmetics, a granite filing stone, some colored sand, and various bottles. It all looked like junk to me. My usual, please.
Luton, you're...
What? Is my tie not done up straight? Is there an unfortunate mark on my nose?
I heard you were dead.
Perhaps I am. Get me a stiff drink. How about a whiskey?
Don't you want something with it?
All right, put another whiskey in there.
Drinking like that'll kill you.
I'm dead already.
You didn't come back here to drink, did you?
I hear a prominent merchant has been killed. Heard anything about it?
All I heard was that someone in the Merchants Guild got killed. That's all I know.
Apparently one of the wizards up at Unseen University got themselves killed.
That's right. The reader of esoteric accounting or something.
Esoteric occultism, yeah. How did you know that?
I was speaking to Mrs. Foams earlier.
Mrs. Foams?
She's the head chambermaid up at the new hall.
One of the halls of residence?
Yeah, the big one that runs off from the huge library.
What did she have to say?
Just that this wizard had died in mysterious circumstances. Although she sounded like mysterious circumstances are pretty normal up there. It'd be a nice change if someone died in unmysterious circumstances for a change.
Can't be easy working at the university.
You couldn't pay me enough to make me work there.
Oh no? No amount of money would make you work there?
Well, obviously not a huge amount. For enough money I'd do anything.
Anything?
Well, not involving fish, broccoli, or vinegar.
I decided not to bore Mankin with the details of the murders. It was probably bad enough to have had one in his establishment without me going on about it, tempting though it was to watch the little rats squirm. See you around?
Yeah, whatever.
There was a bold scent of navy blue in the air. There was definitely the remains of a magenta scent in Mundy's room. Around where Mundy's body had lain was a dark blue scent. There was a hint of an apple-colored scent in the air. The teal scent strongly resembled tobacco and guilt. I couldn't be sure who the navy blue scent belonged to. There was a bold scent. My killer had been here, but were they responsible for Mundy's murder? There was